Revolution channel. Thank you so much for coming. How are you doing?
Thanks, Joshua. It's a pleasure being here. Thank you.
It's an absolute pleasure. As we discussed, Tom, I would like to ask you two personal questions just for the audience to know you a bit better. And then later we can go to the more professional one. Is that okay?
Yes, I'm nervous.
All right, cool. Don't be. They are very easy ones. All right. So, Tom, the first one that I always like to ask is if you could wake up anywhere in the world tomorrow, Tom, where it would be and why?
I personally have adopted the Philippines as my new home or my emotional home. I like the
Okay.
weather, I like nature, and I like the people. So
Uh,
it is a very family-oriented place. I have a big family there, and
uh,
it feels very warm and welcoming.
oh, that's beautiful. Okay, very good. Cool. I never been in Philippines. It's one of my places, top places to visit. So yeah.
It
All
is
right.
a beautiful place. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Now, the next question we'd like to ask you, Tom. Someone who really knows you very well, Tom, and really admires you highly, how would describe who is Tom?
There are two words that I hear constantly being used professionally as well as privately. It's passionate and positive.
Okay.
Um, I can catch fire quickly.
Uh-huh.
I think I'm made out of straw. So I think I usually do things with a heart, full time in, and I'm always very optimistic, see the positive side of things, and powering things through. And that, I mean, you ask a personal question. That comes also when I am personally challenged. I had some hard times in my life. You know, I went
Uh-huh.
once through divorce. I was once very sick, um,
Uh-huh.
and I always try to um, put this aside, see the positive things, and even in hard times try to do the right thing and try to pull myself out. I'm usually doing that, and also building up the business and always innovating. Corona times was very difficult in my very much training and workshop based
Mm-hmm.
business back in Singapore, based in Foresight. And people always saying, "Look, Thomas, I don't know where you can get the power from always standing up, always continuing, right?" But
Mm-hmm.
that's how I am, positive and passionate.
All right, very good. Thank you so much for that. Passionate and positive. And now that you started a new company, Thrive 8 or Thrive Infinity, I was wondering, what is your why right now, Tom?
This is a good question. We can talk from impact, from insight to impact later. But the recent change for me with Thrive 8 is that me and my business partner, Andre Shenton, basically agree that organizations, companies really make a stronger effort in transforming themselves. And
Mhm,
the big change and the real urgency that is facing every organization around the world is sustainability. Right?
mhm,
Sustainability is the first transformation that is now coming with the deadlines. I mean, you can probably assume that by 2050, if you haven't achieved CO2 neutrality, some kind of sustainability, that you may lose a license to operate or you may be priced out of the markets with CO2 certificates.
mhm,
So whereas the other two dominant transformations, agile and digital transformations, are pretty much at at the discretion of each company. So whether you do it and how fast you do it, it's your choice, right? It's also your problem if you don't do it fast enough. But there was no external deadline to this, right? And the dilemma is that the better you are with agile and digital, the easier transformation, the sustainability transformation comes. It comes with a vengeance now, and in two ways. The first way is an organization has learned how to change itself, to transform, right? Through good project management, through program management, portfolio management, or agile ways of working, right? If they have flexed and developed their transformation muscle, their change muscle, right? Um, then it will be easier for them to even master the upcoming transformation or multiple transformations. And with all the political uncertainty, there's more stuff to come for all of us. So this is the first thing. And the second thing is that
Mm-hmm.
sustainability is supported by digital and agile. So if you do something virtually like what we're doing now, right, rather than me and you flying around the world, half the world, meeting in the middle somewhere, emitting a lot of CO2, us doing this digitally will save CO2, right? So it is supportive. Digital is supportive of
Mm-hmm.
sustainability. That's called a twin transformation, a twin transition, but playing digital and sustainability transitions together. But we should not forget that there's also agile, the third one. We call that a triple transition, where we're simplifying ways of working. Right, every form that doesn't need to be filled out, every business process that is done faster. Right, every email that doesn't need to be written. Right, will every meeting that you don't need to attend will save some kind of effort and have an impact on sustainability. So digital
Mm-hmm.
and agile, the traditional big organizational transformations are supportive of that, right? And the more you have done that, the easier it will be for you to be sustainable as well. And what we
Mm-hmm.
want to do with Strive 8 is help organizations to see the synergies and the levers between the two, right? With really making the organization successful and mastering all three together, right? And how that's being done, what has precedence, where they are, this will all be highly individual. Though you can get to this with your tool set of program management, project management, portfolio management plans. We have a methodology that gets you from where you are to where we believe you should be aiming for and helping you develop the target.
All right, very good. So, if I understood well, the achievement of sustainability with digital and agile kind of
Right.
merging, right?
Correct.
Synergy. Very good. And what do you think is the biggest challenge that most organizations face at this stage with that approach?
The biggest challenge that I've seen in my last engagements, particularly here in Germany, which made us really nervous and actually go down this path, is that organizations struggle from coming up with a consistent execution plan towards that,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where you're saying some organizations don't have the project management muscles internally. They don't know how to change, right?
Mm-hmm.
Organizational on the level that it is needed now. So it's purely the inexperience of many organizations that they were sometimes in a lucky situation that they never had to, right? So it always was good. They were always successful, right? So they didn't need to do it. Or if they had to, they brought in consultants on the outside to do it for them, right? So this is, and then it's also the consistency from guiding it. Right. So what I, for example, saw in one of my clients is that they basically launched a huge transformation program with about over 40 initiatives, and they created an inconsistent unaligned KPI system. So they said everybody needs to be measured, but everybody had was able to measure themselves rather than saying, okay, what are the overall measures that we want to implement? What is the objectives? Why are we doing this? So asking the
Mm-hmm.
why question, going there to a target system that says, okay, here are the things that we really need to achieve, right? For example, everything that you do, you should measure against its CO2 impact. Right? That's one of the things if you want to do sustainability. So everything you
Mm-hmm.
do should pay into this, should at least be considered in the context of that. They have developed a vision, right, a strategy that says, okay, we want to achieve this, but they haven't connected to it. So, and by doing this inconsistently, they lose. It was difficult for them to keep the ship on path. And really answering the question is what we're doing at the moment, really in the long term perspective, achieving what we need to achieve, what we want to achieve, and then
Mm-hmm.
spelling that one out. So from coming from my foresight background, asking the why question is doing some kind of outside in management, long term, say where do we want to be in 10 years, being very specific with what that is, right? And lining everything you do up to this target, right?
Mm-hmm.
I the other day an example of how supposedly Elon Musk is doing this. So Elon says, I have my strategic agenda. I don't exactly know what I want for my different companies. I will do only things that are on that agenda. And within that agenda, quite a lot of points probably for him. I will focus on the things where things are not going well. So it sounds like he has exactly that radar system open. He knows where to want to go long term. He has the measurement system to tell him where the problems are. And this is where he, as a top executive of the company, is investing himself. And that, I think, is a model that every organization will be successful with. So that is
Mhm.
what we need to want to move towards.
And what do you think is then the reason of this inconsistency, that people have with this long term and short term and execution plan in the present based on the long term, or maybe connecting or this holistic approach, right? Or view of everything, how everything is interconnected.
I think there's a um, philosophical and there's a real answer to this. The philosophical one is that every organization has a vision, every organization has a mission, but very often this is more just a statement that people are not really living, right?
Connected
So
with,
so
yes.
there's no practice. There's no practice in saying I'm setting myself a target, a purpose of an organization, right? So it's all well greenwashing or purpose washing,
Yeah,
or
it's more for marketing purposes rather
it's
than
for marketing
for,
purposes. So
yeah.
people do it because they want to get it off the table and but don't really mean it. So I think this is one of the corporate dilemma in many organizations that I work with. Um, and then um, and then the second one is simply politics. Right. I mean, if you have an organization that is still run in an old traditional Tayloristic way, where it is probably from the starting the board level already start falling into silos, right? Into vertical thinking, right? Where people probably work ultimately more against each other than together, right? So the missing teaming aspect basically rips transformation and any transformation and change program apart, because everybody will project into it what they want. They will take what they can get out of them for themselves. They will use it simply because I always wanted to do this anyway. I'm getting a budget now with it, so let me just pretend I'm doing it, but I will do my own thing. So it's that can really destroy things, right?
Yeah,
And then the longer term the problem is, I mean, I had some programs were designed for 10 years in the future, right? Long term, long implementation projects. And what happens then if things start to run spread out and people start running into different directions, then you will find that, yeah, you will make some progress, but ultimately you will get to a point where things don't fit together, right? They may even contradict each other. And that's,
sure.
for example, also the experience of my partner and myself, because we've seen too many examples where organizations start to do transformation initiatives. Whatever, HR starts with agile, IT starts with digitalization, finance does some ESR reporting, right? So or supply chains logistics is working on de-risking China, right? Or HR is doing whatever, working with generation change. So everybody sort of does their own thing and starts to make a difference. I mean, with good intentions, right? But because things are not aligned, we find we had too many examples in our last couple of years where we're saying, hey, they're standing in sometimes in the way of each other, right?
Mm.
I mean, for example, we had an organization where we were introducing a new ERP system, and we told people, look, you have a chance now, digitalization, right? ERP. So we have a chance now of rethinking your processes, ways of working, which agile, right? Implementing this, and we asked people, hey, imagine this, right? But at the end, people stuck to their old processes. They were not prepared to make the jump in changing it, right? And thinking about the organization. This is why always it helps to think about everything you do from a perspective, at least from a perspective, digital capabilities, agile ways of working, and sustainability, right?
Mm.
And thinking this together. And ultimately, Joshi, this is not very difficult. It's an intellectual exercise that doesn't
Uh-huh.
take a lot of time, isn't costly, yeah. But you need to remember that it's worthwhile doing, and push yourself to put processes and approaches in place that do that, right?
Mhm.
And the benefits are great if you do that.
Uh-huh. Sure, Tom. Yeah, I was thinking, that I don't know if you agree with it or not, but it's kind of more about culture and relationships, right, between the employees and the leadership, rather than maybe something more, let's say, technical, right? So it's about kind of the combined mindset,
Correct.
I would say, and the
Correct.
culture. And what you're trying to do is to promote this agile mindset, and that everything can change if everybody collaborates and understand what we are going to, right? Or where we're heading to, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think if you ask everybody to think about, hey, what do you think you can do to make whatever you're doing now have a greater impact on sustainability, right? Circular economy, it's about sustainability of people, healthy, right? And of course sustainability of the planet, right? Can you think about it? I'm sure most people would come up with some kind of ideas, right? We could do this in addition or change it to have a greater impact there. People are extremely imaginary. If you give them a certain focus, inspire them, let's call it inspiring them, right? By framing it and saying, we
Uh-huh.
need to do it, and calling for help and saying, hey, look, guys, we are in this together. We need to work it, and we need your help to do that. And we need
Mhm.
your ownership and drive to do that. People, most people I have read will do that and pick that up and rise in that challenge.
Sure, yeah.
And
And
this
they
is the
are more
the
accountable,
hardest.
from the psychological point of view, because they sell themselves. You don't tell them what to do, they come up with their answers, and then when there is time to execute them, then they will be much more accountable and more motivated to execute them.
Yes, yes. And there's another obstacle that I see in many organizations around that, what you just said, is in a traditional organization, management organization, it is sort of top-down Tayloristic, right? Where a manager is promoted into a position of not necessarily superior power, but also superior knowledge, right? Very often, that manager thinks that he must have an answer to everything because he's the
Mm,
manager. He was promoted because he was better than the others, right? That's a very
mm,
traditional way of thinking, right? If you're good at school, you're getting good marks. This type of mindset starts getting into our heads in school already, right?
uh,
And and good organizations promote managers not because they are necessarily better than everybody else in the team, but because they are better moderators, right? And I had a few experiences where I asked sales managers, look, why don't you why don't you say to your team when they come with a question, rather than thinking, God, shit, I must know the answer. I'm a manager. By forcing yourself and putting yourself under a lot of stress, why don't you simply say, look, I don't know at the moment. I don't have time looking. Well, I don't have time looking at it. Why don't you make a suggestion, right?
uh-huh,
And that was so liberating for most people. When you tell them that, they'll say, "What? I can say that I don't know, and I don't have to know." No, you don't. Right? Give it to your team. Empower, enable your team to do that. Bring the answers. Right? You can still decide at the end if you want to. Right? But let them work it out. So you're putting all the burden that a lot of managers are under extreme stress. They're under extreme
uh-huh,
stress, all the transformations, because they feel they need to manage it all. They need to understand it all. They need to manage it all. But the world is going VUCA. Everything becomes unclear. They don't. They can't. And there's a the other day I read that there's a psychological concept, a principle that when people get under pressure, that they get narrow. And in relation to the managers, that means that they become more
rigid.
aggressive,
They
aggressive,
have a closed mindset.
more directive, rather than the opposite that is needed, more open, more inclusive. So,
Yeah,
so
it's funny,
pressure is negative.
I was laughing because it's all about the ego and the expectations, that we sometimes get or inherited from the society, from the organization, from the culture, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's as you say, we want them to be more vulnerable, and to accept that, they are not gods. And they can rely on their teams, and especially I think it's better, it's about this collaboration, right? It's to make this more effectively.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I was wondering, in your track record, Tom, that you have done so many different businesses and management, and or what do you think are the biggest one or two lessons learned to effectively lead an organization, would you say?
Leading.
Yes.
Leading. Um, I'm personally came to the conclusion 12, yeah, 11, 12, 13 years ago, while at my end of
Okay.
my time at Microsoft, that
Okay.
you need to lead an organization outside in.
Mm-hmm.
You build an organization with people who manage inside out, manage the organization, right?
Uh-huh.
But there's one role that must lead outside in, which is on the top of the organization, which is the
Mm-hmm.
ultimate leader, right? The CEO, right? If there's anybody, because that person needs to take an outside in perspective, right? And saying, okay, I need to understand what the managers, what the competitors doing, what the customers doing, what's going on in the marketplaces, right?
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
And live that, right? He has a lot of capable people in his team to manage the inside out. But if
Mm-hmm.
the top leader of an organization, starting with the top leader, also says I'm doing inside out, then the entire organization may lose its track. Right? So, and that's something. Let me give you an example that happened in 2009. I was in Microsoft, and that is the
Okay.
starting point of where we are now, where I am now, why I'm here. It is the organization for the first time in its history had a crisis. And the crisis was that for the first time in the history of the organization, as far as I remember, it didn't, the revenue didn't grow from one quarter to the other.
Mm-hmm.
The revenue didn't grow. So it's not we're making money, we're losing money, right? But there was sort of a dip in the expectation of Wall Street, right? And because everybody else in the world, financial crisis, everybody else started to do layoffs, etc., the managers felt that they also had to do that. And for the first time in the history of Microsoft, they decided to lay off people. And this was basically done with a spreadsheet that came down from the top, right? It had
Mm-hmm.
certain roles and potentially possibly also names in it. That say, hey, look, these are the people we think you need to let go. And as a consequence, there were some consultants taken out of running paid engagements, which is sort of totally crazy, right? And whatever, there was of course, a lot of angst, anxiety, very much top down executed. Microsoft was very top down at that time, so that was definitely a style. Um, and then within a few months,
Mm-hmm.
the situation had changed, and everything was back to normal. And they wanted to hire back those people, and the people said like, get off, right, right,
Of
and
course.
and and worse. There was one case in Singapore where two people were working, a couple was working in Microsoft. They were big income, both of them. Both of them got fired within a month. One of them committed suicide. So I've seen a lot of bad damage of that short-termism. We need to do what everybody else is doing, right? Not thinking about it, right? And then I was saying, guys, how come you didn't see that the damage you're doing with the trust of the employees? The trust of the employees in the company was destroyed for years. They had to change the performance management system eventually, right? Because it was such bad. It took them years to recover from that. And didn't you see that? Didn't you see that you can't
Is
sacrifice a long-term value like employee loyalty on the altar of short-term Wall Streetism? No, they didn't see that.
it's crazy.
And I was sitting there going, gosh, I don't get it. It's obvious to me, right? And that's when I started getting interested in foresight and saying, hey, look, sometimes there are things that are logical, are obvious, only because you are, and this is the big thing for me, only because you're looking outwards, you're looking up, and you're looking forward. Very
Mm-hmm.
often we lead our business looking down, backwards, and inside, and looking at short term, having our blinkers on, right? And it takes a simple shift of mind, right? By doing this. Once a month, ask yourself, raise yourself above what you're doing every day. Are we still doing the right thing? Are we on the right track? What would someone say when they look at this from the outside, right?
Uh-huh.
It is a simple mind exercise, an attitude. that will help you to make sure that you're gaining some kind of objective external perspective.
Mm.
And from that moment onwards, I was on a track where am I now? I'm saying, hey, I want to do foresight. I think the times are going VUCA now. Now we call it VUCA, right? And they get uncertain. There are ways of doing it. That's when I just undiscovered foresight as an approach to
Mm.
deal with that and moderate that. And look, I've never went back.
Mm. Yeah, it's crazy, right? Like, how everything comes down sometimes just for the economical part, that they forget that people are humans and they have feelings and they have emotions and they have families and they have relationships, right? And responsibilities apart from the company. And the manager or leaders, they sometimes see them as numbers, something that they can just click a button and let
Uh,
go, right?
yes, I asked this question. After this happened, right? I asked people. I went 2, 3 levels, right, and asked people, look, why did you do this? Didn't you see that? I asked the people the question, and the answer I got on the 2 levels I covered was, oh, we had to do it. It was given the system asked us to do it. If we would not have done it, someone else would have done it. If we wouldn't have done it, maybe we would have been fired.
Mm.
And then, but if you go up all the way, where does it end, right? Where does it end that the system asks you to do something, right? Is the CEO also saying, okay, look, I don't have a free choice here. I must do it because my shareholders are expecting me to it, right?
Uh,
Where does this end? And what is the system? The system is a combination of people, and it's the people who represent the system and make the system as the system is. And if we as a people don't understand that we are the system and we are ultimately, because of that, above the masters of the system, because we created the system, so we can change it, we can live it
yeah,
differently. Yet we're
yeah.
we're we're, we're giving away that power, and we're thinking we're being overburdened by it. It's not. We need to raise as humans everywhere above our own creation and saying, look, we're still in control of this. We can still fix it. Whether it's a
Hmm.
planet burning, a company failing, or a child crying, we can fix this. We need to believe
Definitely.
in our ability as humans and become the owners of our own creations again. Take
Mm.
ownership and fix it if it's not working.
Totally agree, Tom. I laugh because we created the system to and the companies and the organizations to serve us, but it seems like it became the opposite, right? We
Yes,
become the humans to serve the organizations instead.
yes,
So it's crazy. So we have 2 minutes left, Tom. I really enjoy this. I can see you are passionate about this for sure, and the positivity. We need to have hope, right? That's why I created also this Impact
exactly,
Revolution, because I think it's a
exactly.
problem of mindset. It's a problem of the business mindset. The traditional business mindset is not sustainable anymore. It never was really, but it was just making money. So people thought it was sustainable, but on the short term, it's not. So I was wondering if you have anything to share that we haven't covered so far, Tom, as last words.
I think the important um, the important
Yes.
aspect here is maybe we need to talk a minute about from impact, from insight to impact. Is we need to recognize the change, right? Be open, observe, get clarity about it. These are the 4 steps. Get from impact, get clarity about it, create the urgency in an organization, make a decision over it, assign the resources, and then
Mhm.
execute. Best in an agile team that continuously delivers the value incrementally, right? My
Mhm.
experience and a big frustration in organizations, why organizations sometimes are too slow or appear unagile, is because the decision making process is. I have been a project manager all my life, professionalized mostly, and more often than not, I'm being put in a position saying, "Oh, here's a project we want you to manage," and then you find out about the project, and you figure out more often than not saying, "Hey, look, guys, you knew this for years already, right? That you needed to do this. Why now? Oh, now it's because really important, really urgent now, right? Because they
Mhm.
they they, they didn't put the clarity and the urgency in, and then we're too slow, and everything had to be done very fast. And I always said, look, isn't there a better way? And there is, right?
There is always a
Simply
better way.
create yourself the clarity on each management team, on the top and in between, the clarity, what is important, what's going on, what's important, what do we need to do something about, and prioritize and start with the important things first rather than with the urgent things first.
Hmm.
Right? So
I
this
like
is
it.
something that is so important, right? Again, not something that costs a lot of money or is complex. It's a mindset thing.
Yeah, it's a mindset completely. I totally agree. And it's about taking the time to reflect on what you say. What is really important and impactful, right? Very good, Tom. Just last question, okay? Because I'm curious. If you could have a last chance to share last words to the whole world before you die, what would you share, Tom?
Oh gosh. Um, um, I hope, I hope that it's time to go. Simply because
It's time
it's time to go.
it's time
It's
to
time
go.
to go. Simply because I hope that if this happens, I will look back at my life and saying, I've done good. I've done what I could. And I don't want anything else more from the world. So it's time for me to go. It's fine. It's okay. It's okay to go. Right. I hope that I have a chance to say that. If it happens earlier, I will probably say, "Damn, damn,
I'm
I'm
sure
not
you
done yet.
will, Tom. Thank
I'm
you
not
so
done
much.
yet."
Thank you. I'm sure. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. It was a big pleasure, Tom. Thanks a lot for your time. We'll catch
It
up
was my
soon.
pleasure, Joshi. Thank you.
Ciao. Ciao. Okay. Let me just